Dr. Ariane Kerr was a name that resonated in the halls of the Galactic Exobiology Institute. As a leading expert in the study of Deathworld's planets where life was so brutal, so savage, that survival was an extreme challenge, Ariane had made a name for herself by pushing humanity's understanding of the universe's most dangerous ecosystem. These planets, hostile and unforgiving, were her life's work. From jungles that could eat you alive to oceans that boiled with violent storms, she had studied them all. But there was one particular planet, one death world, that had been overlooked. Ariane had just been assigned to explore it, an uncharted world in the far reaches of the galaxy. It was a new chapter, a fresh frontier in her illustrious career. The planet, designated XZ-498, was unlike any other death world she had studied. Its environment was extreme, its atmosphere dense with storms that could crack the toughest ships in an instant, and its surface was a jagged landscape of unstable volcanic craters and lethal fauna. However, it wasn't just the environment that intrigued Ariane, it was the mystery surrounding it. The planet had remained off-limits, hidden behind layers of cosmic dust and radiation. No one had dared to approach it in centuries, and records about it were scarce. The initial scans indicated nothing unusual, yet the air was thick with a strange presence. And Ariane, driven by her curiosity and obsession, was about to unravel that secret. As Ariane prepared for the journey, her mind buzzed with excitement. She wasn't just investigating a new world, she was diving into an ancient mystery. However, her excitement was met with something unexpected. A week before her scheduled departure, Ariane received a transmission. It was not an ordinary message, but a cryptic signal, decoded only with her specific expertise. The message was not a warning, as she might have expected. It was more of an invitation spoken in a language she couldn't recognize at first. Yet, there was something eerily familiar about it. The words came through as fragmented whispers at first, then formed coherent sentences. Earth was once a death world, the message declared, one far more dangerous than the one you now seek. Ariane's heart raced. Earth, a death world? It didn't make sense. Earth, where she had lived her entire life, the cradle of humanity, couldn't possibly fit that description. The message continued, speaking of an ancient force that had once thrived on the planet. This force was not just any relic, it was alive, waiting, and hidden in the deepest corners of Earth's history. The message ended with a chilling warning: what you seek is not knowledge. It is power. Ariane's hands trembled as she reread the transmission. What was this ancient force? How had Earth, her home, ever been a world so brutal that it could even be considered a death world? She had to know more. There was something here, something hidden in Earth's past that had been waiting for the right person to uncover it. And Ariane, driven by her insatiable curiosity, was determined to be that person. The decision to alter her course and head to Earth was not an easy one, but she had no choice. The question had been planted in her mind, and it would gnaw at her until she uncovered the truth. She would begin her journey not to study a planet, but to unravel the mystery of Earth itself. As Ariane's ship broke through the atmosphere of Earth, she felt a strange tension settle over her. The planet below appeared peaceful, blue and green, covered in forests and oceans that seemed to stretch forever. There was nothing about it that screamed Death World. And yet, the message still echoed in her mind. Far more dangerous than anything you've ever studied. Just as her ship descended into Earth's orbit, Ariane's sensors pinged. Her heart skipped a beat. There was an anomaly. It wasn't on the planet's surface. It was in space, a fleet of ships that had appeared without warning, cloaked by advanced technology. These weren't human ships, nor did they resemble anything from known alien species. They were different. The ships glided silently into position around her vessel, a cold precision in their movements. Ariane's first instinct was to call for backup, but the communication systems were already jammed. The fleet wasn't trying to harm her. They seemed to be waiting. A small, sleek ship detached from the formation and approached her vessel. The strange ships had no visible weapons, no signs of hostility, only an air of quiet command. The ship's hatch opened, and an alien figure stepped forward. The being was tall, its features sharp and angular, with skin that shimmered like polished obsidian. Its eyes glowed faintly as it spoke in a voice that reverberated in Ariane's mind. "You are Ariane Kerr," the alien said, its tone strangely calm. "We have been waiting for you." Ariane froze. She had never seen this alien species before. They seemed ancient, older than any race she had encountered. The alien continued, "We were the first to visit Earth eons ago, long before humanity's rise. There is a force on this planet, a power that has begun to stir once again. It is something we must study." The alien's words hit Ariane like a blow. Something had reawakened on Earth, an ancient force that could rival humanity's survival instincts. The beings that spoke to her weren't here as invaders, but as scholars, eager to understand what lay beneath Earth's surface. Ariane, torn between caution and fascination, couldn't deny it. Earth, her home, held secrets far darker than she had ever imagined. She was no longer just a scientist, she was a witness to something much bigger than herself. With a mixture of awe and apprehension, Ariane prepared to land. The journey had just begun, and already she realized that the planet she had thought she knew was hiding mysteries that could change the fate of the galaxy itself. Ariane stood on the edge of a cliff, overlooking an ancient city, long buried beneath the Earth's surface. The air was thick with the hum of unfamiliar technology, vibrating through the ground beneath her feet. The strange alien fleet hovered silently above, their ships as motionless as statues, watching the planet as though waiting for something. Everything had seemed calm, almost too calm, until the true nature of the mission began to unravel. The cryptic message that had brought Ariane here, warning her of a force that had been reawakened, suddenly seemed more like a prophecy than a simple alert. That force was not a natural occurrence or an ancient relic waiting to be rediscovered. No, it was far more complex and far more dangerous. It was a remnant of a civilization that once dominated Earth, an advanced race whose influence had shaped the very nature of the planet. The force was not a singular entity, but a network of sentient, self-replicating machines that had been left behind when this civilization disappeared. These machines, now known as the Ancients, were the true architects of Earth's original status as a death world. They had helped life on Earth evolve, pushing the boundaries of survival and fostering the brutal ecosystems that Ariane had come to study. But the Ancients were not benevolent creators. They viewed humanity not as a natural evolution, but as an anomaly, a species that had no rightful place in the world they had helped shape. To them, humans were nothing more than an infestation, a threat to the purity of the Earth they had crafted. And now that the Ancients had reawakened, they had only one goal: to purge the world of humanity's influence and restore the planet to its original, untamed form. Ariane had known that her mission would be difficult, but she had not expected this terrifying truth about the planet she had once called home. The message from the mysterious source, the one that had led her here, seemed to have been more of a warning than an invitation. She had assumed the message's intent was to prepare her for the challenges ahead, but now she began to wonder if it had been sent for an entirely different reason. Her mind raced. How could she have misjudged the situation so badly? The alien fleet, which had seemed so eager to study Earth's potential, had only been interested in one thing: knowledge. They sought the power of the Ancients, hoping to learn from their technological marvels. But the Ancients saw them as little more than pests, one more species trying to claim a piece of Earth's heritage. Ariane, who had once seen herself as an impartial observer of the universe's mysteries, now found herself caught in a web of conflicting desires. She was no longer just an exobiologist studying alien life. She had become an unwilling participant in a battle for Earth's future. The aliens, once her supposed allies, were now looking at her with a different eye. They saw her as the key to understanding the Ancients' technology, perhaps even controlling it. Yet the Ancients themselves viewed her as little more than an obstacle, a human with no real stake in their struggle. Worse still, they seemed to know things about her, about the messages she had received, things that she had not yet fully understood. Her mind was further clouded by strange effects from the message. The more she pondered the cryptic transmission, the more she felt her perception of reality warp. It was as if the message itself had unlocked something deep inside her mind, pulling her into a new state of awareness. She began to see glimpses of the past visions of Earth, long before humanity's rise. Images of the ancient civilization that had once thrived here. The visions came in fleeting flashes, always just out of reach, like a forgotten dream. The world around her began to feel different, as if the fabric of reality was thinning. It was clear now this was no ordinary mission. The more Ariane uncovered, the more she realized how little she understood about her place in the universe. Earth was not just another planet to study, it was a battleground for forces far beyond her comprehension. The ancients were not mere relics of the past. They were the planet's true caretakers, and they intended to reclaim it. Humanity, in their eyes, had no right to the Earth. Her alliances were shifting rapidly. The aliens, who had once offered her knowledge and power, now seemed like opportunistic predators, eager to exploit Earth's secrets for their own gain. Their true motives were becoming clearer. They had come to Earth not to protect it, but to extract its wealth, its technology, and its power. They wanted control not just of Earth, but of the ancients' advanced machinery. Ariane was torn between two powerful forces, neither of which had her best interests at heart. The aliens, with their promises of power and galactic influence, were no different from the ancients, who saw humanity as a threat to their planet's future. The more Ariane learned about the ancients' plans, the more she realized that the very nature of survival was at stake. Earth's ecosystem was not meant to support human life. Not like this. The planet was a living organism, carefully balanced by forces that had nothing to do with humanity's evolution. The ancients' purpose was not just to restore the planet, but to return it to a natural state where humanity had no place. With the stakes rising, a new mystery began to unfold beneath the surface. Ariane discovered hidden archives left behind by the ancients, encoded in a language older than anything she had encountered. The archives spoke of a prophecy, a future in which humanity would play a pivotal role. But the prophecy wasn't about survival. It was about extinction. The ancients had foreseen the fall of the human race. They had predicted that humanity's dominance would be short-lived, and their rebirth would be the signal that the human species was no longer a force to be reckoned with. These archives spoke of a power that could undo everything humanity had worked for, a power that had been buried deep within the planet for millennia. Ariane's curiosity drove her to delve deeper into these secrets, but each revelation seemed to confirm her worst fears. Humanity, it seemed, was not the dominant species of the galaxy. The ancients had known it all along. They had created the conditions for humanity's rise, but they had always known that the time for humans would eventually end. As the truth began to settle in, Ariane found herself at a crossroads. What was her role in this unfolding conflict? Was she simply a pawn in a game far larger than herself? The humans she had once fought to protect seemed to be part of a dying species, one that had no place in the grand design of the universe. And if the ancients' prophecy was true, what would become of her? Would she too be swept away in the tide of history as Earth moved on without her? For the first time, Ariane began to question everything she had believed about humanity's place in the universe. Was humanity truly the ultimate species, as they had always believed? Or were they simply one more fleeting experiment, destined to fade away in the face of forces far greater than themselves? The answers, she knew, were waiting for her buried deep within the heart of Earth. And whether she was ready or not, she would soon have to confront them. Ariane had never expected to learn the truth in the way that she did. She had come to Earth seeking answers, hoping to uncover its secrets, but the knowledge she uncovered shattered everything she had believed about her own species. The archives hidden deep beneath the surface of the planet were far more than just ancient history. They were a confession. A confession that would change the course of humanity's future forever. She had spent weeks deciphering the encoded records left behind by the ancients, piecing together fragments of a history that felt entirely foreign. What she discovered was beyond anything she could have imagined. The ancients, as it turned out, were not the creators of Earth's savage environment, as she had originally believed. Instead, they were mere caretakers, protecting the legacy of a much older and far more powerful species. And this older species had a hand in the creation of Earth's hostile conditions. Ariane sat in a dimly lit room aboard her ship, the walls lined with holographic displays of the data she had uncovered. Her hands trembled as she scrolled through the final piece of the puzzle, a record of an ancient alien race, one that had genetically engineered Earth's first human ancestors. These aliens had sought to create a race of beings capable of surviving Earth's extreme conditions, a species forged to be the ultimate survivors' warriors, built to thrive in a death world, capable of withstanding any threat, any danger. Humanity, it seemed, was not a product of natural evolution at all. Their ancestors had been shaped and engineered by beings far more advanced than them, their genetic code manipulated to create the perfect soldiers. The brutal ecosystems of Earth, the constant struggle for survival, the predatory beasts, and the deadly landscapes, they were not accidents. They were part of a carefully crafted design, a design intended to force humanity's distant ancestors into a crucible where only the strongest would survive. It was a deliberate creation, an experiment in survival. Humanity had never truly been the natural apex predator of Earth. They had been made for it. Ariane's head spun as she processed this new truth. She had always believed that humanity was the ultimate success of evolution, the greatest survivalist in the galaxy. But now she saw that it had all been engineered, carefully constructed by an alien species for a war that had never come. This ancient race had created humans not as caretakers of the planet, but as weapons prepared for a conflict that Earth had never seen. The implications of this revelation were massive. Everything humanity had fought for, every piece of pride they had carried in their survival, now felt hollow. If humanity wasn't the natural product of Earth's death world, then what were they? An experiment. A weaponized species forged by the will of an alien race. And this truth was too much for many to bear. The more Ariane thought about it, the more she realized how far this truth reached. Humanity had built its entire identity around being the ultimate Deathworlders, the masters of survival. But that wasn't the full story. The very idea of survival had been twisted. It was a tool and instrument for creating the perfect soldier. And Earth had never been a paradise of life. It had been a war factory, built to produce the fiercest fighters for a battle that had never been fought. Her revelation caused a deep rift between Ariane and the humans she had once called her own. She had always believed in the unshakable belief that humanity's strength came from their inherent ability to survive, to adapt, to overcome any obstacle. But now, as she stood at the crossroads of this newfound knowledge, she found herself doubting everything. Were they truly the ultimate survivors, or were they merely the product of a grand experiment? And then there was the alien fleet, the very beings that had once seemed so alien and distant. They, too, had known about humanity's origins, but they had hidden it from Ariane, perhaps, to prevent her from discovering the truth. The aliens had their own agenda, one that involved studying the ancients and their technology, but their fascination with humanity's engineered origins had a darker edge. Were they interested in the knowledge of Earth's true past for their own gain? Or had they known from the beginning that humanity was just one more piece of an intricate puzzle? The more Ariane delved into the archives, the more she uncovered about the original creators of Earth's death world status. The alien race that had engineered humanity's creation had left behind a series of cryptic messages about a war that never happened. A war for control over the galaxy. A war that would never come unless humanity, the engineered warriors, were unleashed into the galaxy. But now, the true question remained, would humanity accept this truth? Or would they fight to preserve the identity they had so carefully crafted for themselves? Amidst this internal chaos, a greater challenge loomed. Ariane's journey had not only revealed the truth about humanity's origins, but it had also revealed a chilling choice. The ancients, whose technology had once been revered by the alien fleet, were now the final key to unlocking the galaxy's future. The ancients had the power to reshape the balance of life on Earth. But the price for unlocking their ultimate secrets was high. In order to gain access to the last and most profound pieces of their technology, Ariane would have to destroy the remaining records of humanity's true creators. The decision weighed heavily on her. To preserve humanity's pride, to shield them from the crushing reality of their origins, would mean keeping the truth buried forever. But in doing so, Ariane would condemn future generations to live in ignorance of their true beginnings. To destroy the records would sever humanity's last tie to its creators, cutting off any chance of understanding what they were truly capable of. It would be a betrayal, not only of the human race, but of herself. As she stood before the final decision, Ariane felt the crushing weight of responsibility. The choice before her was not one of survival, it was one of identity. Could she destroy the truth to protect humanity's fragile pride? Could she erase the past to secure the future? Her decision came with a terrible cost. The last connection to humanity's creators would vanish. The records, the archives, everything that might have explained the purpose behind humanity's existence would be gone. Ariane knew that this would fracture humanity's very foundation, but she also knew that sometimes the truth was too dangerous to bear. She had always believed that knowledge was power, but now she understood that some knowledge was too powerful, too destructive. Ariane made the sacrifice. She destroyed the archives. In doing so, she severed the last thread between humanity and its origins, and in that moment, she realized that she too had lost something essential to her very sense of self. What had once been a clear, unshakable purpose now felt like dust in the wind. As the records were erased, the last piece of the puzzle clicked into place. Ariane understood the true nature of humanity's place in the universe, but she also knew that some questions would never be answered. The battle between the ancients and the alien fleet raged on, but for Ariane, the true war had already been fought inside herself. And no matter the outcome, the world she once knew would never be the same. The air around Earth had shifted, and so had Ariane's understanding of everything. Her sacrifice, the destruction of the archives, the severing of humanity's last connection to its engineered origins, had, in some ways, brought peace. But it was a peace that felt hollow, incomplete. She had eradicated the alien fleet, an alien threat that had loomed over Earth for so long, and she had hoped that this victory would bring stability. She had hoped that by keeping the truth hidden, humanity would thrive in ignorance, free to continue as the ultimate survivors they had always believed themselves to be. But things did not unfold as expected. The ancients had not been truly defeated. Their retreat was not a sign of weakness, but a strategy, a deliberate withdrawal. They had been watching humanity for millennia, manipulating the conditions on Earth to push their creators to the edge of survival. The ancient machines, remnants of a long-lost civilization, had pulled back into the deepest recesses of Earth. They now watched in silence, biding their time, ever suspicious of humanity's place in the world. While humanity thought they were secure, the ancients were preparing for something much larger, waiting for humanity's next move. As Earth began to heal, Ariane witnessed a strange transformation. The once hostile planet, a death world that had shaped humanity into its most deadly form, began to soften. The ecosystems recalibrated, returning to a more stable, more hospitable state. The violent storms, the endless jungles that could devour entire cities, the predatory creatures, all of it began to fade, like a wild thing being tamed. The changes were subtle at first. New plant species took root where dangerous flora had once thrived. Predators retreated to their lairs, no longer a constant threat. And the atmosphere, once thick with toxic gases, seemed to clear. The Earth that had been humanity's crucible for survival was now becoming a world in which survival would be too easy. Yet, the more the planet healed, the more humanity's place on it began to feel tenuous. The very elements that had made humans the apex survivors, the fierce challenges, the ever-present struggle were receding. Humanity no longer held the undisputed dominance it once did. The Earth was no longer a death world, and humanity was no longer the pinnacle of evolution. Instead, it was a world in transition, a world where humans no longer seemed to fit. Ariane wandered through the once bustling cities, now silent and overgrown with nature's relentless reclaiming touch. The streets were empty, the towering structures now covered in creeping vines and roots. A part of her felt an eerie peace in seeing the world return to a state of equilibrium. But another part of her felt a profound sense of loss. What had humanity truly fought for all these years? What had they become in the face of these revelations? It was in the ruins of a city long abandoned that Ariane received the final transmission, the message that had been a guiding thread through her entire journey. It was the same mysterious source that had initially beckoned her to Earth. But this final message was different. It revealed the most staggering truth of all. The entire conflict, humanity's creation, the alien intervention, the reawakening of the ancients, had not been a random occurrence. It had all been part of a larger cosmic experiment. Ariane's realization hit her like a wave. Earth, humanity, the ancients, the alien fleets, all of it had been designed. Not by a single race, but as a test for a much larger plan. Humanity wasn't the ultimate species. It was a subject in an interstellar experiment. Ariane's mind raced. Earth was just one of many Deathworlds scattered across the galaxy, each created to test the limits of life. Different species had been placed on these planets, each designed to forge ultimate life forms. Some species were made to thrive in harsh environments, others in advanced technological societies, and some were placed on worlds where survival was nearly impossible. Each of these Deathworlds was a tool in a larger cosmic scheme, a system designed to observe and manipulate the forces of evolution. And humanity? Humanity was nothing more than one experiment in a long series of trials. The galaxy's vast web of interconnected Deathworlds had been constructed by unknown, powerful beings who viewed each of these worlds as a kind of crucible for different life forms. But the real question, Ariane now understood, was whether humanity was even meant to survive. Was their rise to dominance part of a grand design, or was it simply a blip in a much larger cosmic story? Her heart heavy with the weight of this new truth, Ariane wondered if humanity had ever been in control of its destiny. She had thought that humanity's rise had been the result of their own efforts, their own ingenuity. But now, it seemed like they were just one piece in a game that was far beyond their understanding. The final message offered no answers, only more questions. What were the larger forces behind this cosmic experiment? What was their purpose in testing life in such extreme conditions? And most chillingly, was humanity the last of many failed experiments, or would they continue to be tested, endlessly reshaped by forces beyond their comprehension? Standing on the edge of Earth's decaying ruins, Ariane faced the final question. What did it mean to be human if humanity was never the ultimate species? The answer was no longer clear. The idea of being the greatest, the strongest, the most adaptable, no longer seemed important. Perhaps humanity had never been meant to be the ultimate species. Maybe they were just one step in a larger cycle, one that would continue long after Earth's final secrets had been uncovered. As Ariane looked out over the planet, once so unforgiving, now soft and overgrown, she realized that humanity might not rise again in the way they once had. They had been tested, and now they were free from the struggle. But freedom from the Deathworld was not the same as victory. What would humanity do now, with all the power and knowledge at their disposal? Would they thrive, or would they fade into obscurity, just another failed experiment in a galaxy full of forgotten worlds? The silence that followed the final transmission felt heavier than ever. The universe was vast, and humanity was now a small part of its grand design. The future was uncertain, and for Ariane, the question that lingered wasn't whether humanity would rise, it was whether they were ever meant to.